back, London, and welcome to Cooking Classic. I'm joined here in the kitchen today with Chef Janet Golaszewski. How are you today, Chef Janet?
Good, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have to say it's an honor to have you in the kitchen with us today. I have to congratulate you on receiving the Luzerne County Community College Adult Learner Award this year. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I graduated from high school here, Nanticoke Area High School, went on to Wilkes College where I received a BS in biology. I then went out to Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and received my dental degree. At night, I received a master's in education while I was in dental school. Did a one-year internship at the Veterans Hospital, and then I went back to Temple University where I got my orthodontic certificate. I practiced orthodontics for 33 years, and I retired and decided to start my passion, which was cooking and baking. I started taking classes in 2003 with Chef Nemitz, and then I went on to take pastry classes, culinary classes, and the hotel restaurant classes. So I was able to get all 3 degrees this year.
Wow, well, congratulations again. And I know that you're also very instrumental in the children's cooking camp here at the college, and you're very much appreciated. So today, what are you going to be preparing for us?
Well, today I am going to be making a recipe called Texas sheet cake, and that's a recipe that has been handed down from generation to generation, and rightly so. It is easy to make. You have ingredients that you have in your pantry. It's very easy to take places, very portable, and people just love it.
Oh, well, it sounds delicious. And we will be right back, and Chef Janet is going to be teaching us how to make that delicious Texas sheet cake on Cooking Classic.
Hi, I'm Avis. I'm a culinary student at Luzerne County Community College, and this is your culinary tip of the day. Today we're going to flip an egg. This is something that takes practice, and it's fun to do for your family and things. So first we're going to heat up our pan. Things that you might need, things that you're going to need are oil, your eggs, a plate, your pan, and your spatula. Small amount of oil, you don't need a whole lot. You want to let your pan get heated up pretty nicely before putting the eggs in. Then we're going to add our eggs. Now you want to let your eggs settle and get firm. They want to get white and firm so that you have enough ability to, that they're firm enough that you can flip them in the pan. You might want to take your spatula and move them around slightly. Make sure that they are movable for when you do flip them. This is a lot of fun. My nephews and nieces, they just get such a kick out of me when I do this at home. You notice the eggs are pretty firm, solid. You tilt it forward and flip. You're gonna let them cook a couple minutes on this side so that they're white through. I like mine over easy. You might like yours over hard. You might want to cook them a little bit longer. You move them around in your pan again. Make sure you have that movement in your pan. You can pretty much tell looking at your egg to see through if there's any clear still there or not. Lean it forward and flip it back. Turn your heat off and add it to your plate. That is your culinary tip of the day. Enjoy, have fun, show your family. Bon appetit.
Welcome back to Cooking Classic. I'm Kim McLendon, joined with Chef Janet. And Chef Janet, you're going to be teaching us how to make that Texas sheet cake. So walk us through the first few steps of preparing this Texas sheet cake.
First thing you do is you preheat your oven to 350 degrees and you prepare your pan. Now this is a sheet cake, so I'm using a half of sheet pan. You could also use a jelly roll pan.
Oh, okay.
I've also seen them use a 9x13 pan. I like it in the sheet pan.
Okay.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dry ingredients and mix them together. And this is my 2 cups of flour, my 1 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Melt my butter. This is over medium heat.
Okay. Now, is it salted butter, unsalted butter? Like anytime you're baking, is it more important that you use the salted butter or unsalted butter, or
Recipes call for unsalted butter. You're already adding salt in your dry ingredients.
Okay.
So you really should use unsalted butter.
Oh, okay. Good tip. Good tip.
So when I melt my butter, then I'm going to use my cocoa, which is 1/4 cup, which I sifted. You always want to sift your cocoa.
Okay.
Then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of cooking oil
Okay.
and a cup of brewed coffee.
Oh, okay. Now, does it matter what type of coffee, like an espresso or?
I would use a regular brewed coffee.
Okay. Okay.
It's also important when you look at your recipe, when it calls for coffee, you don't use coffee grounds. We had an aunt in my husband's family when she first got married. She made a chocolate cake and she put a cup of coffee grounds in it.
Oh no.
So make sure your recipe specifies brewed
tip.
coffee.
Very good tip. So where did you get this recipe from, Janet? Is this a family recipe or?
Again, a lot of these recipes were passed down. My mother was an excellent cook and an even better baker. And she got it from her sister-in-law, who got it from her sister, and we've been making it for decades.
Oh, wow.
So this has already come to a boil, this liquid measurements.
Okay.
I'm going to shut it off, take it off the heat, and this is going to be added to my flour.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to get rid of this pot. Now this has to be mixed very thoroughly. You don't need a mixer for this cake, which is really nice. You don't, many cake recipes, very few of them can you mix by hand.
Oh, okay. And this is one of them.
This is one that you just mix in a bowl.
Okay.
And you use a whisk.
It smells delicious. All that chocolate in there.
So again, you want to incorporate all your flour, all your sugar, and the salt with that liquid that I brought to a boil.
Okay. And just kind of make sure you mix everything in.
Everything is mixed well.
Okay.
Now when I'm mixing it, I'm also bringing the temperature down, which I need to do because I'm going to add eggs.
Okay.
Okay, now if I added the eggs directly into this mixture, I probably would curdle them. So again, by me mixing this well, I'm cooling the batter down.
Okay, good.
Now, this is a 1/2 cup buttermilk.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm a baker, so I have buttermilk in my refrigerator all the time. However, if you don't, you can use the 1/2 cup of milk and you could put a teaspoon of vinegar or lemon juice in there.
Oh, okay. You can make your own buttermilk.
You can make your own if you don't have it.
Great tip, great tip.
Now, another thing is I'm adding 2 large eggs, which I brought to room temperature. You want to have the eggs about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes in room temperature. If you don't have them at room temperature, you could put them in warm water for 15 minutes. Warm,
okay.
not boiling.
Great. Okay. Oh, wow.
If you have the eggs at room temperature, the yolks and the whites are going to incorporate better into your mixture. You'll get a fluffier cake.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Good tip.
Also, another thing is whenever I use eggs, I have one at a time.
Okay.
Because I make breakfast for my family a lot on Sundays. I use 12 eggs. If that 12th egg was a bad egg, I would have to throw them all out.
Oh,
so I always mix, no matter what I do, one at a time.
Okay. Good tip.
So this is my buttermilk, my eggs, and again the large eggs, and this is a teaspoon of baking soda.
Oh, okay. And it's important that you combine these 3 ingredients in this process. Okay.
Right, because we're also kind of tempering the eggs here, getting the eggs not in a position that it will curdle in this batter recipe.
Okay.
So this is going to be added into my chocolate mixture. And again, this is just all mixed thoroughly. It's a thin batter.
Okay, so it should look thin as you kind of
Right.
mix it together. Okay,
Right.
so you know what to look for.
But
Good
nothing
tip.
is curdling.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good. And that's a good tip because I know a lot of times, you know, when you're making certain cakes, sometimes some batters seem a little bit thicker or thinner than others. So
Right.
it's a great tip.
Another thing, you have to watch what flour you use. This calls for all-purpose flour,
Okay.
which most people have at home. I made the mistake of taking this Texas sheet cake somewhere. I use self-rising flour. Does not
Oh,
work.
no.
Self-rising
Okay.
flour already has baking soda, and it already has some salt in it. The cake would not set up. So it's really
Oh, okay.
important
That's a
that
good
you use
tip.
all-purpose flour.
Okay.
You
okay.
also want to use, again, you don't want to use a bread flour, which would have a high gluten content. You could use a cake flour or a pastry flour, but I find that this works fine.
Oh, okay.
And again,
Oh,
this is
great
going to get
tip.
poured in to the greased and floured sheet pan.
Okay.
I'm using a spatula to get out most of my batter here,
Okay.
and then I'm spreading it around so it goes through the whole cake pan.
That looks amazing. That looks good. And then we'll be baking this in the oven. Now, also too, Chef Janet, I know that a lot of times when you're baking, they say it's very vital to make sure that you preheat the oven. So is that true? Really important that you're always going to
because
preheat?
your cake will not bake properly. Again, you have a leveling agent, you have your baking soda in there, but you definitely need it to be preheated.
Okay. All right.
So this will be
wonderful.
put in the oven
Okay.
for approximately 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you use a smaller pan, maybe a jelly roll pan, it would probably take maybe a little longer, up to 25.
Okay. All right. Good tip. All right. Well, we're going to place this Texas sheet cake in the oven. And when we come back, Chef Janet is going to teach us how to make that wonderful icing for our Texas sheet cake. We'll be right back on Cooking Classic. Welcome back to Cooking Classic. I'm in the kitchen with Chef Janet. And Chef Janet, you are going to teach us how to make that icing to go with our Texas sheet cake. So what are we going to do first here? What's the first step?
The first step we're going to do is we are going to melt our butter. Again, we
Okay.
have another stick of unsalted butter. We're going to melt that.
And then it looks like we've got a little bit more chocolate. Now, Chef Janet, is that sugar in that bowl over there?
That's powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar.
Okay. Oh, geez. That's a lot of sugar.
It's a lot of sugar.
Be-
It calls for 1 box, which is approximately 3 3/4 cup,
Okay.
which is a pound of powdered sugar.
Okay.
I'm
then-
melting my butter.
Okay.
And then I'm adding another 1/4 cup of the cocoa that was sifted. Again, you always want to sift your cocoa.
Okay.
Because you will get little lumps. They don't taste good, and they even look worse on icing.
Oh, geez, that's a good tip. That's a really good tip.
So this is heating. It's almost to boiling.
Okay.
And I'm going to add my 1/2 and 1/2. And this calls for either 1/3 cup of 1/2 and 1/2 milk or heavy cream. I happen to have 1/2 and 1/2 at home all the time, so this is what I use.
Oh, okay.
Now, if this mixture seems to separate a little bit, it's your separation of your milk with your fat, with your butter.
Okay.
When it's pretty much mixed, you take it off the stove,
Okay.
off the heat, and then I'm going to use a teaspoon of vanilla.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to mix this well.
Looks good.
Now I'm going to start incorporating my powdered sugar to this.
Okay. And it's important as you add in that powdered sugar to keep this mixture nice
Right.
and warm. Okay.
Right, and I'm going to use a cup at a time.
Okay.
I don't like to add, and this is already sifted.
Okay.
I don't like to add too much at one time.
Okay.
So it works for me that I do pretty much a cup at a time.
Oh, okay.
So I get the consistency I want.
Okay. Okay. And the same thing with the powdered sugar. Make sure that it's really
sifted
before you're
Right.
adding that in.
Right,
Okay?
even if it says it's pre-sifted, it gets a little lumpy
Okay.
in the bag or the box. You can see it's coming along a lot
It looks great.
better.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks wonderful. It looks great.
And again, I just keep on dumping pretty much a cup at a time.
Okay, and just kind of incorporating that equally
Right.
there. Okay, looks good. So now maybe perhaps if we have a little extra icing left over, could we use this icing for maybe some other types of pastries or anything, or any type of cake or anything like that?
I think you could use it on any type of a brownie,
Oh, okay.
or you can see how nicely it's coming together.
Yes, it's a beautiful glossy sheen to it. Looks great. That looks wonderful. It looks wonderful. Well, we're going to finish making this frosting, and when we come back, Chef Janet is going to show us how to ice that delicious Texas sheet cake. That's Cooking Classic.
Bring this over to here. Hi, my name is Jim Gavanis, and I am the faculty photography instructor at Luzerne County Community College. We start with the very basics on how to use cameras, how to control how our photographs look, lighting. Our students really work in a wide variety of areas after leaving here. We've had students work as photojournalists, as sports photographers for the Olympics. We've had students work in portraiture and be flown all around the world, including Paris, and they can open up their own studios. Many assist other photographers to even gain more experience, and some go on to a 4-year degree. But our students really get so much hands-on experience that they are prepared to go out into the real world and work in really any area, whether it be photojournalism or food photography. The faculty here are working photographers. We own our own businesses. We are working in the real world with clients every opportunity that we're not here. And so we're able to bring those real life experiences into the classroom. No matter how prepared you may be, something always comes up. They are better prepared to problem solve. If you are interested in photography, I encourage you to visit Luzerne County Community College and see for yourself the opportunities that we have for you.
Welcome back to Cooking Classic. I'm in the kitchen with Chef Janet. So Chef Janet, what are we doing now with our Texas sheet cake?
Well, we just took our cake out of the oven, and you could put the icing on as soon as it comes out of the oven, or you can wait a little bit till it cools a little bit.
Okay.
I happen to like it not that hot. I don't like my icing totally soaking in and melting. So I do cool mine down, but it's still a warm cake.
Okay.
Now I'm going to get my icing that I am going to place on the cake. And I'm going to use an offset spatula.
Okay.
And then we're going to ice this cake.
Looks great. Looks wonderful. Now, traditionally, could you maybe even put like some toppings on this cake, like nuts or anything, or?
Well, what happened was this cake actually came from Texas because that was the first place where it appeared in a newspaper article. Again, years ago, we did not have what we have now. We didn't have computers, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have email. So most people got their recipes from the newspaper, and they would send them to their friends and their family. The Texas sheet cake, again, was first appeared in the newspaper from Fort Worth and Dallas. It was very similar to a German sweet chocolate cake. And I always thought the German sweet chocolate cake was a cake made in Germany. It was first made in Texas.
Wow.
It is German's sweet chocolate cake, named after Samuel German, who invented the chocolate in 1852 in a chocolate factory in Massachusetts.
Oh, geez.
So,
wow.
so actually, this German sweet chocolate cake appeared first, and this was a little bit of a deviation. They both had buttermilk in their batter, and Texas was famous for pecans. So a lot of them put pecans in the batter and in the icing.
Wow.
Again, the German sweet chocolate cake was made in layers, where this cake is made in a sheet cake, obviously a Texas sheet cake. There are probably 10 different names for this cake. If they put cinnamon, it's called a Mexican Texas sheet cake. My recipe was called brownie nut cake. It's called a funeral nut cake. It's called a funeral Mexican cake. It has several different names.
Oh, geez, that's interesting. That's great history about the Texas sheet cake. Thanks so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Now, so what are we going to do now after we've kind of iced the cake? What are we going to do now? Are we ready to cut up the cake and
Now we're
serve
ready
it?
to cut the cake
Okay.
and ready to serve the cake.
Okay, all right, okay. I'm ready to try the cake. So let's cut into our cake and get ready to serve it. Looks amazing, Jen, and it smells so good.
Now, it's not a very thick cake.
Okay,
Okay, it's actually more like a brownie.
okay.
You can serve it with a dollop of whipped cream if you like. You could also serve it with ice cream or just a little powdered sugar, what we're going to do today. A little sprig of mint, but the cake goes a long way. And again, it's a great cake to take to different functions.
Wow, that looks beautiful. That looks great.
We took the cake, again, my mother taught me a lot of traditions about baking and cooking, and she was one of 8 children.
Wow.
And money was scarce, so when anybody in the family had something good happen, something bad happen, such as somebody had a baby, somebody was sick, you took food. And since my mother was a good baker, she took many times this Texas sheet cake.
Wow, oh, that's amazing because you know what? A lot of times, you're going to different events and functions, and you think, geez, you're asked to bring something, and this is actually a wonderful accompaniment because it's got chocolate and it smells amazing, but it really looks like it can feed a group as well.
Right, and that's one of the reasons the Texas sheet cake, everything in Texas is big. So
True.
they may have taken, again, the German chocolate cake and make that, instead of being in the layers, you can get you could feed a lot more people with this. This is actually easier to take to a picnic, easier to serve, and you get many servings with this.
Yeah,
and it's a
that's for
great
sure.
cake. And again, if you want to
great.
do a little bit powdered sugar, just to, sprinkle some on, just to get a little bit, make it a little fancier, you
garnish.
can do that.
That looks good.
Just anything to pretty it up a little bit, but it's a great cake. I stopped putting nuts on. I used to put chopped nuts on. A lot of people have nut allergies, and most children don't like nuts. So I probably don't use nuts much at all anymore. Again, the original recipes were pecans were in the icing for the Texas sheet cake.
Right, so you can really even change the recipe
Right, you
to
can
whatever
change
like.
it. Also, again, I put coffee in my cake, where I feel coffee enhances the flavor of my chocolate. So anytime I make a chocolate cake, again, I use brewed coffee, but anytime I do that, again, if there are people that are allergic to coffee, then I wouldn't put it in for them. But again, you can substitute brewed coffee for most water in any of your chocolate cake mixes.
Okay, just no coffee grounds.
No coffee grounds, yes.
Well, Chef Janet, I have to say it definitely is an honor to have you in the kitchen with us today, and thank you so much for sharing this recipe of the Texas sheet cake and teaching us how to make it. You know, come back again and cook with us, and again, join us next time on Cooking Classic as we share more of these wonderful recipes.